And we are live. Okay, awesome. Let me do. We can wait like a couple minutes just to let everyone join. How are you guys feeling, Bo and Natalie? Are you excited?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we have a couple people joining right now. I'll give it a minute. How are classes going for you guys?
I have a week-long Thanksgiving break for the first time since middle school, so
What?
going
Like,
good.
Wait,
Huh?
you get Monday, Tuesday off?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
But they also took away our spring break, so
Oh, that's not.
it's a trade-off.
Yeah. Wait, why'd they take away your spring break?
Because they don't want people to leave campus.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like we have a significant amount of viewers right now, so we can start. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Intro to Serverless webinar today. This webinar was actually put together by a bunch of high school and college students who were really passionate about serverless and wanted to learn. We've got an incredible set of mentors from Microsoft that helped all of our students develop really cool projects that we're excited to show off. Later in this webinar, we'll start off with basic introductions of our student mentors, our professional mentors, and then go into all of those projects. And I think the last thing that I want to say real quick is that if you're interested in making any of these projects, we'll send a link to the listserv right in the channel, in the chat over here, so that you can sign up, and we will be publishing the blogs for all of these cool projects over the next few weeks. And Bo and Natalie, I'm going to let you guys take it away.
Okay. So hi everyone. My name's Bo. I'm a junior at Brookline High School, and I'm a TA for this cohort of the serverless computing bootcamp. So my hobbies are coding. I enjoy skiing because I'm on the north or the East Coast, and I'm really looking forward to showing you guys these projects.
And I'm Natalie. I'm a freshman in college studying computer science. I'm the second TA, and like Bo, I also participated in this program previously, where I made an app that recommends songs based off of a selfie. It was a great experience. I had a lot of fun learning and also meeting some of the mentors that you guys will see today. And yeah, I came back as a TA, and I'm excited to show all the projects that the new students have made.
So before we get into the students' projects, so Bit Project is a nonprofit organization. Like Natalie said, her and I were students in the last cohort, and we got to work together with mentors and professionals in the industry, creating super cool projects. And Bit Project really allows you to like experience what it would be like coding, working with a team, stuff like that, and it's a super cool experience.
Yeah, so the organization as a whole runs programs like BitCamp to give students an opportunity to meet with industry mentors, learn about cool software products and skills, and also get hands-on and make their own projects. And especially in this era, we feel like these opportunities are very relevant and necessary for students to be able to gain some real-world experience. And yeah, that was the main goal of our program. So for this BitCamp specifically, we also partnered with Microsoft Azure. The entire program was centered around the Azure Functions product, and students not only like learned how to use functions, but were able to make their own projects with functions. And we were also very fortunate to be able to partner with Microsoft developer advocates and software engineers to as mentors, and they basically helped our students through the process. So Chloe here is one of our mentors, and yeah, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hello. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited. This is my favorite part of the day today. I'm Chloe Condon. I am one of the mentors for this awesome program for the second time. This is the second BitCamp cohort that I've worked with, and it's so wonderful. I'm having deja vu, y'all, because remember not too long ago, the two of you were in the same shoes of the lovely students who are going to be presenting today. And I could not be more excited for their projects. But before we get into a quick throwback into your two awesome projects, because I want to talk about those because they were some of my favorites. I'm Chloe Condon. I'm a cloud advocate from Microsoft, if you couldn't tell from my hat that I'm wearing. I have the pleasure of working with all these amazing students on these Azure Functions projects. I myself work on the academic team here at Microsoft, so a lot of my job is working with students, helping students learn Azure, and it has been such a privilege to work with these, not only the folks you see above here, but how many do we have today? 7, 8, 9, 100? We have a bunch of high school students and college students presenting today. Some of them brand new at programming, some never used an API before, and it's been incredible to see them grow. So I'm just so excited to be a part of it. But Natalie, Bo, let's have a throwback. Let's think about how long ago was it? 12 weeks, 8 weeks? Oh my gosh, time flies in 2020.
Yeah.
But Natalie, tell us about the project that you built in the first BitCamp cohort, and now you are mentoring in this one. So tell us about your original project.
Yeah, so like I said, I used Azure Functions, the Microsoft Cognitive Services Face API, and also the Spotify API to basically, it was like you take a picture of your face, it'll analyze the emotions in your face, and then recommend like a list of 10 songs to you that are supposed to match your mood. And yeah.
It was awesome, and it definitely worked. I love that you used a friend of yours to model the images, I remember. And we had like sad faces, happy faces. You get like a breakup list or like a I'm working out and I'm excited list. So cool. And had you worked with an API before, Natalie?
No, that was like my first time kind of getting into like web development. And yeah, I pretty much started out with like no knowledge. Yeah.
Incredible. Oh my goodness. And now look at you now. Just teaching the new generation of BitCampers. And Bo, I'm looking the wrong way. Bo, I'm waving to nothing in real life. High five through the screen. Psh, high five, Natalie.
Nice.
But Bo, oh my goodness. So Bo was the only person in the first BitCamp to do a physical IoT device. If you take a look at our previous blog post, which is on Dev2, Bo has a GIF in there of him doing jumping jacks, and that is because, well, I'll let you explain it, Bo. You have a really cool reason why you built it, and then tell us what you built.
Yeah, so like Chloe said, my project was different. It wasn't software. I actually wanted to work with hardware. And I actually created basically a heart rate monitor using Azure Functions and also the IoT Hub, which was much different. And actually, this cohort, we also have another student who did a hardware project. He had the same troubles as me with debugging and making sure the thing works. But it'll be cool to see, what happened, what he created.
But isn't that kind of a badge of honor, don't you think, Bo?
Oh, definitely.
Like, as someone who's now worked with hardware, I remember when I first worked with hardware, and I was in my late 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wait a second, I thought this was going to be easy. Like, where's the manual? You learn so much about documentation, like how to find, like, you sit down and you're like, all right, I'm going to build something. And then you realize you need all these different physical pieces versus like libraries. So a lot of interesting problems to solve.
Yeah.
So did you work with the student in this cohort on their project, or did you say, no, thanks, Natalie, you take this one?
Well, he got to work with some super cool other mentors. I think actually with software engineers from Microsoft or from Azure. So he got there they are.
It's like the Brady Bunch. Hi, y'all.
Hey. Hello.
So Natalie and Bo, how about you introduce my coworkers and the rest of our lovely mentors?
Yeah, so basically we had 3 mentors, 2 of which are here right now from Microsoft. They both have worked with Azure products in the past, and they each mentored around 2 to 3 students and basically helped them through the entire process of thinking of an idea and then coding their project. So do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. Should I go first? All right,
Yeah.
I will go first. So hey, everyone. My name is Anthony Chu. I am a program manager on Azure Functions and also Azure Static Web Apps.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ankit Kumar. I am a developer on Azure Functions, and I've been part of the BIT project for a couple of months. I've mentored some amazing students, and you're going to see their projects. And I think, the 3 students I mentored were Emily, Fifi, and Simon, and they all did amazing. And I'm so excited to see it all come together.
Yeah, we're really excited to have both of you, as all 3 of you, as mentors, Chloe, Anthony, and Ankit. We also had Stephanus, who wasn't able to join us today, but he was also an incredible mentor. We've heard amazing things from the students about all of you. And we're really excited to show off some of the projects that the students have created. So we're actually going to start off with Emily. Thanks, Anthony and Ankit, for joining us. Emily, I'm going to add you real quick. Here you go. How are you doing?
Hi, guys. I'm doing well.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm Emily, and I'm going to present my project today. So
That's really awesome.
Slides.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Hi, guys. So my name is Emily Chen, if you can't tell by the slides, and I'm going to be presenting my project Bunny Image. So first things first, who am I? So first thing, I am a dancer, as you can see here. Those 2 pictures are actually of me before I cut off all my hair. But you might be wondering, how does this connect to BitCamp and web development? Well, I'll start with Instagram. For a dancer, Instagram is sort of like a resume. And I noticed a lot of my friends were getting hacked. And I was like, well, this led me into cybersecurity. And Girls Go Cyberstar is this great program. And me and my friends, my team, actually won 3rd place in a cybersecurity capture the flag competition nationally. So that's pretty cool. And I saw BitCamp and I was like, wow, this is this really cool opportunity, might help me further my cybersecurity skills. But as you will see from my presentation, it was honestly so much more than that. So if you're wondering, this is kind of my general routine every day, sit at the computer, do my work, go to sleep. But what is Bunny Image? So you take an image, let's say, taking a picture of my calc homework. I'm going to upload it on my phone. It becomes a PDF, and then I'm going to download it on my computer. So that's what Bunny Image really is about. But why? So when I was brainstorming for this project, I wanted to make something that was functional, applicable, and made my life easier. So naturally, I looked to the place in my life where the most stress was coming from. And you guessed it right, it's school. And the main reason why I made this app is because not everyone has an iPhone and a Mac. So airdropping files isn't always a viable option. So to be explaining this a little bit more, so you have online school, first of all. This leads to online tests. This leads to uploading handwritten work under a time constraint. Incompatible operating systems worsens this, and all of this culminates to stress and or lower grades. And I'm a high school student. I took the AP exams last year online. Stressful, really stressful. So what does this solve then? Well, as you can see here, you have a stressed student, and that kind of just makes everything go quicker, faster, more reliable. Don't have to worry about not submitting something on time. Other stuff is for people working at home. So like my mom's an accountant, she has to scan stuff and upload it onto her computer in a PDF form. So that's going to help her too. And really, anytime you need to scan a document. So here's my approach. First thing, I started small and then built big on top of that. But really, how does this work? How does Bunny Image really function? So here's an image of my flowchart, and I'm not going to go over this too in depth, but just take a look at the green and blue, which is where the Azure functions are, which are the star of my project, essentially. So here's kind of what it looks like in the front end when you're uploading a page, but we're going to really look at what's going on behind it. So how does the picture make its journey? How does it really get there? Azure Functions and an external API, because we got to give them credit too. But here you see the three main components that I'm going to be talking about. Before we can go in more depth, we need to introduce two characters, Bob the bird, who's going to be the image, and Poppy the penguin, who's going to be the converted PDF. So here's the first thing that happens when you click Submit the Picture on the web app. So the web page makes a post request to this upload function. And a key thing to notice here is the Node SDK. So you have the Node SDK, and this really helped me because it connected the blob storage to the Azure functions. And that really allowed me to allow everything to interact together and essentially just make the whole thing flow. So what happens when Bob the bird is stored in the images container, the event grid is triggered. And that results in the convert image function being fired, and it interacts with the API, and then lastly stores Poppy the penguin in the PDFs container. So now that we're talking about that, what are blob containers? So you can kind of think of them like folders in a file system. And they just kind of let me organize my files so I know where to get what. Now for the event grid. The formal definition is routing specific events to specific endpoints, which in my case is the Azure function. And I just found this really helpful because it's really reliable. It's pretty fast in most cases. And the most important thing is that it has editable parameters. And what this means is that I can specify the subject. So I can say, I only want events from the images container and not the PDFs container. Lastly, here's the API. And I really could not have converted the image into a PDF without this. So, Bunny Image is kind of based on that. So this is kind of important. But what you see on the left here is the documentation for the API, so what I use to make a request. And on the right here is an output I would receive once the image is done converting. And here's the URL I can use to download the PDF in my program. And you might be wondering, well, what's this like while loop for? So you can see here's behind the scenes. This is what happens. What you don't see, but this is what happens in the back end. And you can see the while loop functioning right now. It's printing out everything until the image is done converting. So now onto the next part. And yes, there's another Azure function. But this, when you make a GET request to this Azure function, it's really just checking if the user's PDF is done downloading or not. Is it being stored to the container? And here you can see there's some simple logic, if-else logic, to determine whether that's true or not. So if it is stored in the PDFs, what happens? Well, the button changes to download file, and Poppy the penguin is going to go from the container to the return PDF function, and she's going to arrive back on the web page. So this is kind of what it looks like when you're going to be downloading your file. I'm going to also be demonstrating that live very soon. So just keep with me. And was this whole process easy? No, it was not. I'll admit that definitely wasn't easy. And here's why. So first of all, I had minimal experience, kind of like what Natalie and Bo talked about. I knew JavaScript. I knew Python. I didn't know what cloud was, though. I didn't know how to make an API request. So, this project really helped me put everything together. And two, connecting everything together, kind of like what I talked about before. but I really didn't know how to get the blob from the blob storage all the way to the function and back again. So that was a big roadblock. And third thing, finding the right article on Google. I don't want to admit how much time I spent on this Microsoft Azure documentation page. It's more time than I'd like to admit. So here's another page, and here's a more specific problem that I had. Input binding. So this allows me to directly retrieve the image from the event grid trigger and directly input it into my function. But I had a lot of trouble with this because of the limitations of a JSON file. I thought it was fancy, which is the main reason why I wanted to use it. But I just ended up going with Node SDK because it was, it's boring, but it works. So, but now here's the time you've all been waiting for, demonstration. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to be sharing my screen from my phone. So here I have it up. I have it right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be uploading an image. So I'm going to choose the file. I'm on the upload page right now. I'm going to click photos. This is a picture of the calculus homework I did like a week ago, I think. And then I'm going to name it something. That's the username, the auth system I used. So I'm just going to name it homework. Submit your picture. Great. It says hop on over to the download page, which is where I'm going to be heading right now. So when I head over to the download page, I'm simply going to enter the same username. So it's going to be homework. And I'm going to click refresh. So that's basically just checking whether it's been uploaded to the PDFs container or not. And we can see that Azure function might have had a cold start, which is why it's taking a while. It's kind of like how a car has to restart. So now it says found homework PDF. Awesome. So I'm just going to download the file and let's see if it's the right one. And sure enough, it is the image of my calculus homework printed out in a PDF format on my desktop. So now we're done with that. Let's head back here. All right, now I'm going to reflect a little bit on my BitCamp experience. So overall, my BitCamp experience was great. So on the left-hand side, you see here my confidence in APIs and serverless computing. I didn't really know what a cloud was. I just heard everyone talking about a cloud. I didn't know how to use it. I didn't know how it worked. So, after BitCamp, this project really helped me connect everything together. And now I have a lot more experience in web development, which I feel like is awesome. So if Bunny Image wants to go further, what would happen? Well, the first thing is allowing multiple file upload, because not everyone's calc homework is only one page long. 2 is to add an option to save to Google Drive. So like my mom, if she wants to scan bills and directly upload it to her Google Drive, it's a lot more simpler instead of having to manually upload every single file. Third one, I think for developers, the main concern should be the security of the user. So in order to protect privacy, a better authentication system definitely needs to be implemented. All right, well, I guess that's the end of my presentation. So kind of really want to say thank you to these people and companies and nonprofits. So Bo and Natalie for answering all of my dumb questions that I have had throughout the camp. Ankit, who helped me implement my idea. He helped me a lot with Azure functions, how they work, what they should be used for. Of course, Microsoft, because without Microsoft, this project would not exist. BitCamp, definitely for this awesome experience. And lastly, Chloe for her amazing positive attitude and public speaking webinar that she gave.
That was amazing. Oh my goodness. Good job, Emily.
Yes, well, first of all, if we weren't already in love with this app from the name alone, we love bunnies. What a practical, great app. And have you been able to use it like in action with your homework yet?
Yeah, I had a calculus test today and I used it.
Yay, love practical apps.
Yeah.
Natalie, do you have any questions for Emily, or did the two of you work with Emily on this project pretty closely?
Honestly, Emily, she was like the fastest student ever. She finished her projects like 2 weeks early. She was super on top of it, so she didn't need any help. But definitely her project is like super relatable to me because even though I'm very grateful that I never have to take an AP test again, I also experienced all the stress related to like just uploading, downloading files on like a timed basis. And I think our project is super applicable and relevant to students especially. And it turned out obviously very amazing. So
bravo. And Emily, did you say that you are a ballet dancer?
Yes, in fact, I am.
Wow. So you mentioned that you got interested in coding from seeing your friends kind of getting hacked on Instagram, you said.
Yeah. Because they have, all of my friends have like a large following in the ballet community. And, large following comes with scary DMs and hacked accounts. So,
well, I'm so looking forward to seeing all the problems that you end up solving in the performing arts world with that. I remember specifically for myself, one of the first kind of like things that made me feel like I'm a hacker. I wasn't a hacker at all. was figuring out cast lists. So when they would announce like who's playing what role, they would put it on a website, right? This is like the 90s, early 2000s, back in the day. And I figured out how to guess what the URLs would be before the websites would go live. So like it was my secret version of like learning HTMLs was also how I learned what the cast list was earlier. Everyone thought I was a hacker. I was the coolest girl in school.
That's really cool.
Well, I'm so looking forward to like these future ballet apps, maybe like a ballet social networking app. Who knows? A resume ballet app. Think about it. Open source it.
I will consider it. That sounds like a great idea.
Shreya,
yes.
I'll move it over to you.
I'm really excited. Emily, that was such an incredible, like Chloe said, practical project. I just had my midterm and I wish I was able to use it for that. I spent like 10 minutes trying to upload the files for that. We do have a really good question from the suggestions for students who want to implement this type of project. What would you recommend?
Sure, can you repeat that question again? I kind of cut off. Oh, there you go.
My bad.
Thank you.
Put the question on the screen. Yeah.
So I would definitely recommend reading through Microsoft documentation.
And we'll be posting a blog of the tutorial that you did. So we'll be sharing those. I guess keep an eye on Twitter and Dev2. We'll be posting a step-by-step tutorial. So yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of documentation linked in that blog that I'm writing.
Yeah.
So become friends with documentation is my recommendation.
Documentation is the best.
Do you want to say anything about like your experience with the mentors?
Oh yeah, so I found my experience with industry mentors exceptionally helpful because, as a student, I've been doing code in school, but we never really did like real industrial level coding. So it'd just be like, do this problem, solve it with code. Doesn't matter how efficient it is, and Ankit really helped explain how code should be implemented in the real world. If whether you're just doing it on an open source project or you're actually working for a company. So I felt that was the best thing I'd had as a takeaway from the mentorship program.
Definitely. And something I want to add, hopefully my Wi-Fi doesn't cut out again, for the overall programs is that we work with industry partners like Chloe and Anthony, Ankit, and Stephanus, and group them up with small groups of students, high schoolers and college students, so that they can get that like one-on-one mentorship. They work through project ideas. Some of the students bring ideas from their own lives. Some of them work with the mentors to come up with the ideas. And then they spent around 5 to 8 weeks building the projects out and then doing a demonstration like Emily just did today, and that the rest of the students are going to do. But that's a really good question. And if you have any more questions about the bootcamp, just feel free to let us know in the comments. Do you have any closing statements, Chloe or Emily?
I'm just so proud. You've come such a long way, and it's such an amazing project. And thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you. I'm just really happy that I actually know how to send an API request with JavaScript now.
Every ballet dancer should know how to send an API request.
I
Don't
agree.
you think?
I
Yeah.
agree.
I think it should be a requirement.
Exactly. I agree.
So I'm going to add Evelyn back into the chat now. Thank you so much, Emily. Evelyn, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you guys? All of you guys.
We're good. We're really excited to see your project. So I'm going to let you start, and then, yeah, you can take it away.
All right, cool. So, hi everyone. So this is my project. My project is called Flux. So first, a little bit about me. I'm a freshman at Pasadena City College. I'm majoring in computer science, and I plan to minor in physics. I'm an intern at a company called Merge, and they're a tech startup working on bringing touch to immersive experiences, think virtual reality and augmented reality. I've been a pianist for more than a decade. I also play badminton very recreationally in my garage. And my interests include effective altruism, which is a movement about how can we use our resources the best in order to optimize the impact we make on the world. And I'm also interested in tech empathy in the future, as in how can we bring more empathy into our lives and into society to make sure we can be more functional in the future. And I'm also interested in aerospace. So about Inception, how this kind of idea for Flux came to be. So I thought a lot about what goal I wanted to achieve with BitCamp, and this was actually kind of the hardest part. So I think the final goal that I kind of defined was having a small impact on a big problem, because this year we've seen a lot of big problems, right? We've seen problems with racial justice, economy, gender equality, climate change. There's a lot of things out there that need to be worked on, and we're not necessarily putting our resources into that effectively. So choosing a problem was actually very, very difficult, mainly because there were so many problems to work on. And I discussed this with my mentors, both in BitCamp and Emerge. And with BitCamp, Anthony gave me a huge helping hand with kind of understanding how software played a role in the world's problems and how it can help solve these things, even without the help of hardware sometimes. And with Emerge, the CEO is, he has a major in environmental toxicology, and he has a background in climate change. So I used him as a reference to see, what can I do in order to make an effect in this sort of field? And this kind of, my Flux kind of goes back to this article that I read back in April, way before I even discovered what BitCamp was. And the title of that article is "A Truly Green Electric Grid Will Need Very Big Batteries." And I'll explain exactly why that is in just a moment. But what Flux does is it answers this problem in a small way. So the problem, what's the problem? In 2016 and 2017, more than half of the electricity generation capacity added to the US power grid came from renewable resources. And that's a good thing, right? That's amazing. We're making strides in renewable energy. But, and there's always a but, right? We have fluctuations, right? So, and I think most of you already know about fluctuations, but basically in the daytime, we have the sun high up in the sky, and there's more solar power coming down than any other time of the day, right? The thing is, no one really turns their lights on in the daytime, right? So there's basically no power demand with an overgeneration of solar power, and we're creating imbalance with more power than we need. And then at night, it kind of flips, right? We have no solar power because the moon's out or something, not the sun. And families are coming home. So students are coming home from school, parents are coming home from work. And, this is when high when power demand kind of soars. And now we are seeing an undergeneration where there's not enough power to meet the demand that's happening. And why do we care about this? So there's this thing called electrical frequency, and I won't go over the details, but essentially overgeneration of renewable energy increases the electrical frequency, while undergeneration decreases it. And we need electrical frequency to stay very, very stable. Otherwise, we risk damaging the infrastructure that creates our power, or we run the risk of having power blackouts, making power more inaccessible to people. Right. And it also discourages green investment because we're limiting the benefits of renewable energy, and this discourages further investment in the green energy field. So in its essence, fluctuations in renewable energy risks access to power and causes us to use dirtier electricity. So what does Flux do? Well, Flux aims to reduce a user's carbon footprint and mitigate power fluctuations by periodically informing them of their regional power grid's demand through SMS text messaging. And how it works is that we start off with a web page using Azure Static Web Apps. And that web page only contains an HTML5 form that just takes in a user's information, which you can see at the top right. We have the user's first name, last name, number, and region. So, and then after the information is entered into the into the web page, it gets input into the databases. So we store it into the Cosmos database, and the great thing about Cosmos is that it doesn't have a limit to the structure. It's kind of NoSQL format where you don't have any columns. You just have, kind of blobs of data. And so the Azure function that we have, it runs periodically at precisely the 6th minute of every hour. So the reason for this is because we're taking power demand data from the US Energy Information Administration API. And that updates itself about every 5th minute of the hour, right? And so the Azure function runs the 1 minute after that in order to make sure we have kind of top of the line data, most recently updated data. And so the Azure function runs every hour, and then it kind of runs this function called send text, and it determines, okay, is power demand at an anomaly right now? Is there more power demand than usual or less power demand than usual? And it tells Twilio, hey, right now there's a fluctuation in this particular region. Why don't you send a text to this user telling them, hey, you can turn your power off right now, or you can turn it on guilt-free. So the Azure function itself, it's actually quite simple, although this isn't all of the code. So first, we just get users from the database, right? Those little blobs of information. And we run through each of them using a for loop. And then we have to take their mobile number, and we find the demand in their region. And we find the demand over the past 24 hours. So it's an array of length 24 containing values of the power demand for each hour. Then we take the current demand, or the most recent demand that just happened literally a minute ago, right? And to get our result, we have a function called sendText, and it takes in that array of 24 values of the power demand, the current demand, and the user's first name just for message personalization. So, and the result will return to us a true or false Boolean, as well with a message if the Boolean is true. So here we see, okay, should we send the text? And then it'll push the object onto the message array where it will be sent later on. 60% of the time, it works every time. Just kidding. It should work 100% of the time. So obstacles. There were a lot of obstacles, and I assure you that the code really does look a little bit messier closer up than farther away. So the main problem that we had to tackle here was, when do we text, right? Too many texts could be a little annoying or very annoying, and the less text we sent, the more useless it became. And we needed to find that just the right balance in order for it to be not as annoying and not as useless as possible. So we're really aiming for this kind of center balance point right there. So in order to do that, we have to set our boundaries for how we define anomalies in power. So here we return to basic statistics. I won't go too in depth on how this works, but I tested out 3 rules in order to determine how to figure out what anomalies existed. So the first rule is the 1.5 quartile rule, or the interquartile rule. Second was the z-score analysis. And third rule I actually made up by myself. It was just outside, if it lied outside the quartiles 1 and 3. And I tested each one for 1 day to see how many texts I got that day. So the Z-score, I got 0 texts a day. That borders on the useless side, I would say. 1.5 quartile rule, I got 3 texts a day. And I thought this was a pretty good balance right here. And then outside of Q1 and Q3, which was my rule, it was 8 texts per day. And luckily, we didn't use my rule. We used the 1.5 quartile rule, which I thought was a good balance to have. And another problem I ran into was learning learning React.js. So actually, the way I have my demo set up right now, it doesn't require React.js functionality. You could probably create it just fine with HTML, which a basic HTML form. But I do want to expand on Flux later on, which I'll discuss more about. But React.js, it has a lot of resources in order for you to learn, but it's incredibly dense material and it becomes very hard to find exactly what you want. And so if you're planning on learning React.js, depending how much you need it, if you only need it for like a simple project, I would recommend watching literally the shortest tutorial video you can find, which is probably going to be something like 1 hour already. And then take a look at the documentation and try to look specifically exactly what you're looking for. The documentation is good. It's just not for beginners. So I would recommend you watch a video first. So here is our Flux demo. So here, I'm just going to input my information, not my actual information, but, and the cool thing about the form is that if you spell a state wrong, it will tell you to please enter a valid state. So you'll have to enter an actual state. And something that we should note here is that only works for the lower 48 US states only. And the reason for that is because the lecture grid is actually very, very complex, very, very annoying to navigate. So it doesn't apply for Alaska and Hawaii, and it definitely doesn't apply for Canada or Mexico or any other country other than the US. And expanding it to, to Alaska and Hawaii first is definitely part of the plan. So we can submit, and it says here, hey there, thanks for signing up. If we reload our database, we'll find that we have this, and this is a fake number, so, but we can run it anyways. And you'll see that it will accept the, it will say 202 accepted, which means the function worked. And so if we look here, so you'll see this is the result you should get if that were my actual phone number. So it says, hi, Evelyn, power demand is not fluctuating right now. And it says here, this is my brother. Hi, Alex, there is high demand for power right now. And this is actually a really cool way to make sure that the function actually works the way it should, because I positioned myself in the state of California, and with Alex, he was in Connecticut. So you'll see that there's actually very different power demand for each of the states, which means it's working. So the future of Flux, where it's headed, and what I want it to look like in the future. So I did run into a slight problem with Twilio, where Twilio only allowed me to text manually verified numbers. So basically, with each number that entered the database, I had to actually go to Twilio and manually verify it myself in order for it to be able to text the number. So essentially what this meant is that I could only text the numbers I already had, i.e. just my family, so no one else. And this was a slight issue that I do want to overcome in the future, but the solution for that would simply be paying for premium. Later on, I also want to add demand charts. So right now, Flux kind of just tells you what to do, right? It's kind of like, do this, and it doesn't provide any information or evidence to back its claims up. And I do want to add charts where it says, hey, you can go to this link to see how the power demand is fluctuating and exactly why we're telling you to do this. And that's something I do want to add to Flux in the future, which is also the reason why I use React as a base instead of just pure vanilla JS. So the BitCamp experience. So I think the first and foremost lesson that was kind of hammered in was that web development is a lot more than code, right? And I think I read an article earlier that talked about how the future of software development was heading toward a no-code sort of area where a software developer's job would sort of just to be to connect these no-code platforms like AWS, and just figure out how to make these platforms work together. And BitCamp kind of solidified that idea. Google is your friend. I did use a good amount of Azure, Microsoft Azure documentation, and it was good, but sometimes it was hard to find exactly what I wanted, and Google was incredibly helpful in this aspect, especially Stack Overflow. And ask questions. So I asked a ton of questions to Anthony, and he was a lifesaver. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he answered my questions literally first try. And everything was right again. So ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask them. And then finally, having support is a massive help. And I'll be thanking my mentors and the people who kind of supported me throughout this journey later on. And so, yeah, I wanted to say thank you to Anthony for, answering all my stupid questions. I want to thank Natalie and Bo for threatening to force us to attend office hours and kind of supporting us in that very special way. Chloe, I want to thank you for your positivity and optimism. You've just been an awesome help to all of us during this journey. And of course, Bit Project and Microsoft. Thank you.
That was so incredible. Good job. So Chloe, what did you think?
It's such an amazing project, and I know every time I have a call with these students or even just talk about Bit Project and how proud I am of these projects, I always start singing Whitney Houston. I'm like, I believe the children are future, because I just love that this is not only an application that is practical, but it also helps people and it helps the world, and it's something that I can use and someone else can use to make sure that they are being a good Earth citizen. So I'm so proud. This is so great.
Natalie and Bo, what did you guys think?
Well, okay, you can go, Natalie.
Okay. Yeah, I was super impressed by this, and definitely, I think Evelyn really tackled the problem with a very practical perspective. I love that she considered statistics and whether or not people would be annoyed by the text, and tested out different methods of filtering through that. So yeah, definitely you took into a lot of considerations about your product that I don't think I would have thought of. And yeah, it was really impressive. It works amazing. Bo, on to you.
I was gonna say almost the same thing. You did a super good job of really finding what would be the best way to actually get this data and send it and everything. And I use Twilio as well. It's super cool. I like it a lot. Also, I want to say I really hope you continue working on this project and add in the things you mentioned. If you have more time and if you want to actually work on, this web app, it'd be super cool.
It's such an amazing project to tell people how to be more aware of their power usage and everything. I think it's easy to say, oh yeah, I want to save power, but when you don't actually know what's going on, it's difficult to know how you can make a contribution. So that is an incredible project, and I really hope that people actually start using it one day.
The beauty of open source. And we have a link that we'll share, which I believe is aka.ms/BitCamp Functions. And if you go there, that is a great getting started tutorial where if you've never played with Azure Functions, but you're thinking oh, wow, there's something else that I want to build. We also have a bunch of great documentation there about how to use Twilio. I myself am also a big Twilio fan, and it's just been so wonderful to see all of the students at Bit Project work with all of these amazing different programs that just work so well with our phone devices. And Azure Functions for the win, y'all, truthfully. Great.
Incredible.
Over to you.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Evelyn, for joining us. Next up, we have Ryan, who's going to be talking about his incredible project, and I don't want to spoil anything. So Ryan, I will let you just take it away. Let me add your slides. Oh, Ryan, I think you're muted. You might want to start over.
All right. Hold on. All right, so hey everyone, I'm Ryan. Today I'm going to be talking about my product, which is a web app that helps users find product recommendations based on images they've uploaded through machine learning algorithms and other various APIs. So before we begin, a little bit about me. I'm a junior at Milpitas High, looking to major in aerospace or mechanical engineering. And I also play 3 sports. I play sports all year round. At my school, I do cross country, soccer, and tennis. You can see in the bottom, that's me with the cross country team. I'm also a soccer coach for a local San Jose recreational soccer team. In addition, I also like to go mountain biking. You can see in the bottom right, me and my friends on the trail. I'm also very into Java programming. Me and my friends, we participate in various hackathons year round. You can see in the bottom, that's our app My Council, which won that hackathon, as well as Pathfinder, our most recent hackathon app on the right. Now, I'm also the vice president of our school's esports club. We run local Bay Area tournaments, or just anyone in the surrounding area can join our tournaments for a competitive experience as well as cash prizes. So the idea behind my app is to make a web app to help users find accurate recommendations for products they might be interested in. So I wanted to make sure you got the best price for each item, you got similar and related products, and you did not need to scour the web and look through many different web pages to try and get your product, the product you were interested in. So the way it works is you upload an image to the web page, and the web page will send the image to Azure Functions, which then sends the image to Microsoft's Computer Vision API, which is a machine learning API, which will scan the image and then return whatever objects and brands that it found in the image. Like, let's say you uploaded a picture of a Adidas soccer ball, it would return Adidas and soccer ball. Then those objects and brands are then sent to Amazon's data service API, which is used to create product recommendations. So some challenges I faced while creating this web app was, first off, get post for Azure Functions and HTTP requests, because usually on my hackathon team, I run the front end. I do the UI design and the front end code. So I usually don't work with the database. So I had to learn a lot about HTTP requests and databases in general in order to get this to work. In addition, I also had to read a lot of API documentation. Many of that is very confusing, and they try their best to make it clear. Sometimes it's just not clear, so you'll have to read quite a few pages to get through that. As well, I had to learn some CSS styling. That wasn't really a big issue. Just search up some YouTube tutorials. And also, I had to convert to JavaScript syntax because I usually code in Java. That's what I'm used to. And I also had issues finding a free API because a lot of them you have to pay for, right? Like the one I got, like I still have to pay for if I use it too much. So I don't want to use it too much. So let's go through a demonstration here. So here I've got my web page up and running. So first you choose an image. So let's say you've got this Cannondale mountain bike that you would like product recommendations on. So you choose the image, you click Get Recommendations, it'll take a while, probably like 20-30 seconds to load. So give it a moment here. Yeah, so, right, the reason it takes so long is that you have to first post to the Azure function, and then after that, the Azure function has to call both the computer vision API as well as the Amazon API. But you can see here it's loaded. So it returns the objects and the brands in the image. So it returned, right, it's a bicycle, and it's by Cannondale. So it'll return product recommendations. So let's say, right, this is a mountain bike, right? But maybe you're looking to get into road biking, and so it shows you this Schwinn hybrid bike that's basically just a road bike, if you didn't know what that means. It also returns the price and the product rating, right? And you might also want, like, say, a multi-tool, right, to fix your bike on the trail if anything happens to it, as well as, oh, you probably don't know what this is, but this is to make your the steering much better. All right. So that's basically it for the demonstration, right? There are other product recommendations, but I'm sure you get the idea. So this is just in case it didn't work. I had a gift for that. All right, so you can find all the code on the GitHub. I'll be making this public probably tomorrow once I cancel my subscription, because like I said earlier, I have to pay for this, and I'm not going to pay for other people using my app. All right, so first off, we'll go through some of the code then, since you can't see the GitHub. So the way it works, right, you got your standard HTML, right? So first you submit a form to Azure Functions through this form. And by looking at the app.js here, you can see here, this is the all the code to use the post function as well as the endpoint, all that sort of stuff. And then you need to turn the results that you get back from the function into a string. So you convert it into a string. And then, right, you just place it into a div here. I've just named it objects brand my div. And then, right, the div just, right, displays whatever was returned by the function, right? And then also to get into the Azure Functions code. So the way it works is that it receives the form you sent it, and then it gets so it has two functions in it. It has the analyze image, which is the Microsoft's computer vision, the machine learning algorithm. And then after that, once you get the data back, it calls the Amazon API, which is a get method, and searches for product recommendations based on keywords. Right. So, right, I had a limited time frame. Oh wow, it's loading pretty slow. All right, hold on. All right, I had a limited time frame for this project, so right, there are some features I would have liked to implement, but I didn't get a chance to because of time constraints. So what else I would like to implement is that it would be able to, my algorithm would be able to search in websites related to item category, such as, right, like I showed you that mountain bike earlier. I would like it to also search bike related sites like REI and Specialized. Those are bike brands if you didn't know, right? Instead of just Amazon, right? Because Amazon does have a lot of products, but it won't have everything, and not necessarily all the best deals. I'd also like to develop an algorithm for price comparison where you can look between websites and see which website offers the best overall prices on products you're interested in. In addition to that, I'd also like to implement parameters users can input into the algorithm. Like, let's say they only want to receive product recommendations under $200. So they can put that in and it will only return things under $200. So as for my experience at this mentorship, I would say it's helped me a lot with understanding HTTP requests, as previously I had no experience in that, as well as API documentation and usage, because, right, if I didn't have any HTTP request experience, obviously I'm not going to have used any APIs before. So finally, I'd like to give my appreciation to Microsoft for sponsoring the program and letting us use Azure Functions, as well as Bit Project for setting up the mentorship and making the whole thing possible. I'd also like to thank Bo and Natalie for giving us the groundwork on how to use all the tools that we used in these various programs. And finally, I would like to thank especially my Microsoft mentor, Stephanus. I definitely could not have done this project without him. He was a big help. Right, he mostly helped me with the Azure function. That was what I had trouble with, so I definitely appreciate that from him. And that's my presentation.
Yay! Fantastic job, Ryan. This is such a great project, and what a fun way to solve a problem for yourself where you're like, well, I'm already looking at this stuff and having to open up all these tabs. Like, put it all in one place and find me all the stuff that I need at once. Very cool. What was your favorite part of this project? Like, or maybe let's do favorite and least favorite, because I know there's probably some high highs and low lows of working with APIs and doing a project like this for the first time.
Yeah, I would say that my favorite part was once the APIs finally got working, because after that step, right, everything's pretty much done. You just need to do styling to make it look nice, right? I would say that would be my favorite part. And my least favorite part is trying to get those things to work, because obviously it took a very long time.
Half of solving the mystery is figuring out the API, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Bo and Natalie, what did you guys think?
Me? Okay. No, I love Ryan's project. I think like I would definitely use it a lot, which is kind of sad. I'm sad to hear that you're not going to be paying for us to use your Amazon API. It's tragic, but I hope that, you know, one day it'll become a thing, and I will definitely take full advantage.
Yeah, I don't have any money, but if Microsoft will sponsor me, then I can probably get up and running.
It will be open sourced, and we'll be posting the tutorial links. You can host it yourself and have your very own recommendation and customize it, just how Ryan was customizing it for bikes. I can do it for Sanrio memorabilia, as I've been known to do on a Friday night at 6 o'clock, you know?
Yeah, I thought it was super cool, Ryan. Do you have any plans on like working on it more? Because I think like I don't. This is like way in the future if you end up working on it, but like turning it into like a Chrome extension or something like that, that might be super cool.
Yeah, I would have to see, as I'm currently working on a lot of things right now, but if I have time, I would probably love to work on this.
I wish I had this like when the quarantine started. I spent so much money. I could have saved so much money. But that was an incredible project, Ryan. Well done. We did have a question. I think you like half answered it already, which was, do you have any advice for someone to work with APIs and test them?
All right. So if someone wants to work with APIs, I would suggest that they first read documentation on how to use it. Right. Sometimes it is unclear, but if you read enough of it, you'll start to get the gist of what they're trying to say, because most of them are written the same way. And if you want to test them right, you'll need to use some sort of database or HTTP request like Azure Functions, AWS, that sort of thing.
I love seeing Chloe just like clap every time someone says documentation. But thank you so much, Ryan. We're really excited to meet you. And up next, we have Julia. So I'm going to add you. Julia, how are you feeling?
Pretty good. Yeah, I'm excited about this.
Yeah, we're really excited too. So I'm going to let you take the lead.
Okay, so, loading. Okay, so my project is called Come Rain or Shine, and it's based on the question, what should you do tomorrow? So first, a little bit about me. My name is Julia, again, and I've been virtually schooled for the past 3 years. I'm a sophomore in high school this year, and I live in Arlington, Virginia. Coming into BitCamp, I really had basic to really small HTML and JavaScript knowledge, and I couldn't really create super complex programs. Now I feel way more comfortable with it after doing this program. It's really awesome. I'm also an award-winning filmmaker and author. I actually had 2 films premiere at a film festival this year. And I love to sail, which is part of the inspiration behind this project, actually. Animals, novels, movies, love all that stuff. So inspiration, mainly I noticed that weather really directly influences your plans for tomorrow. Really, I've never planned for tomorrow without checking the weather. And I thought, why not combine the two? It'd make it more efficient and make it easier. Also, I realized that a lot of times you don't know the perfect conditions for a certain activity. So say you want to go sailing tomorrow, but it's not really windy enough. You didn't know it was a great day to go biking or to do another activity related to that. And so this would just give you the perfect recommendations for the forecast. Also, I noticed that people repeat activities. So they do maybe 3 or 4 that they're super comfortable with and they've done a lot. And then they just get into a rhythm of doing those as whenever they're planning, they just say, well, we'll do that tomorrow because the weather looks good for that and we're used to that. And this brings in a wider range of activities to choose from. So come rain or shine, basically it's a web page, generates recommendations for tomorrow based on the forecast and the zip code that the user entered into the website. It uses an Azure HTTP trigger function as well as OpenWeather's 5-day, 3-hour forecast API. So how does it really work? So what you do is go to the website, you enter your zip code, and when you click get recommendations, it triggers the Azure function, which takes the zip code and calls OpenWeather's API. And using the zip code, it grabs the forecast for tomorrow based on that location, the hourly forecast, gets all that information and sends it back to the web page where the algorithm that I created formats it and generates the activities based on the weather conditions. So first, a little bit about the algorithm. This was kind of a problem I had. I thought it was going to be way easier to create this, and it seems pretty easy, but it actually wasn't. I had to decide whether to go from activities to weather or weather to activities, meaning like create a list of activities and say, what are the perfect weather conditions for those activities? Or create a list of the certain weather, like sunny day, snowy day, and match activities to that. In the end, I went with both. Actually, I combined the two, and it worked well because it really covered everything. So a little bit more about the algorithm. There's some of the code. It's not all of it, but basic idea. So it's based on the temperature, wind speed, humidity, and precipitation. Yeah, and so what I did to match the activities to weather and weather to activities was I created 2 categories, and pretty much what I just said, but a little differently. There's activity-based and then weather-based. So the activities were I created, and since this was the main point of the project, I did the activities first. So the weather runs through those first. So I created a list of activities, and then I said, what's the perfect weather to go with those? And so then I created those first because those were the main point of my project. Then I said, well, what about those days where there's really no temperature? I mean, not no temperature, but really there's no wind, no humidity, no precipitation. It just doesn't fit the other categories. And so I created just temperature-based, solely temperature-based from like really low to 30, 30 to 45, and so on, that just kind of cover the bland days when you still want to do something and there's really nothing interesting about the day. So problems faced. There were definitely quite a few problems faced here. Finding the right API was very tricky because it was hard to find something that matched my specific needs. I had to pick either between daily forecast or an hourly forecast or different functions inside different APIs. In the end, I went with Open Weathers, and I think that was a good choice because it was very easy to use and great documentation. I also lost my Azure function, which was very frustrating. My free trial ran out before I had saved the code and started my new student account. And so I lost that, and I had to code it all from scratch, which was very time-consuming and frustrating, but it worked out in the end. Also, calling the Azure function in the code, that was tricky just because I'd never worked with Azure Functions before and APIs, and it was definitely a learning curve, but it was really cool because I feel more comfortable programming with those. Also, as I said before, designing the algorithm was pretty tough, whether I should fit the activities to the weather or the weather to the activities. As I said, I went with both, and I think that worked out well. So a quick demonstration. Okay. Okay, so here's the website. Basically, you just enter your zip code and click Get Recommendations. So what comes up first is just a general forecast, because I thought if I don't put that up there, then people will just go to a weather website anyway, and that kind of defeats the purpose. So here you have your location, description, temperature, precipitation, wind, all of the weather conditions except for humidity that I used in my algorithm. And then you skip down a little bit. There's recommendations. I have 10 per condition, and some of them overlap, which I thought was okay because maybe if it's snowing and it's raining, you might want to read a book on both days. And so then, but you still keep that wide range of activities in there with the 10 different options. So let's try another one. So it looks like it's going to rain here. Again, you see some different options. You see some similar options, and that kind of combines the whole. So you still have your old options, and you have new options. Okay. And also there's the GitHub link. Okay, so improvements. I could add an email add-on, which would be a form on the website where the user enters their email and their zip code, and every day at like 12 or 1 o'clock, an Azure timer trigger would send an email to all the users with basically what's on the website, the general forecast and the recommendations. Also, I could make it more customizable. So you say, maybe I like these certain activities, and based on another algorithm I would create, the computer generates only activities in that based on what you chose. I could also link the recommendations to local places. So say if it said, go sailing tomorrow, it would link to a local marina, or go shopping, it would link to some stores. Also expanding it to other countries. Currently, it works only in the US because of the API that I chose. I'd either have to upgrade or I'd have to find a different API. I feel like Open Weather was really great, and I feel like the API was really easy to work with, so I would just upgrade. I could also expand the search. So when you type in your, when you say get recommendations, it would show places, if it's raining or snowing near you and you don't like that, that could also play into the customizable part. it would show places near you that where it isn't raining or it isn't snowing, and you can do other fun activities. That also plays into the customizable thing again, where you could say, I'm willing to drive 1, 2, 3 hours to get away from bad conditions if there are bad conditions in my area. So I'm going to say a little bit about my BitCamp experience. If I had to sum it up in one word, I would just say it was super fun. I really learned a lot about coding. I feel way more comfortable coding in HTML and JavaScript, and also using Azure Functions. I really did not know what Azure Functions was before doing this. Now I can really see how you could use this just to upgrade anything, any kind of process, and make it really cool. Also, I learned about APIs. I'd never worked with an API before, but now I can see how many cool things you can do with it. It opens a whole new world of possibilities. Also, I got to work with the mentor, which was awesome because a lot of the problems and bugs I could not have solved without my mentor. And so lastly, one more thing, last but not least, thanks to everyone who helped on this. Thanks to Natalie and Bo for just being awesome and helping out, especially with the learning labs and just any kind of questions I had. Also, thanks to Stephanus, my mentor. You really helped me through a lot of those problems. And just thanks to Bit Project and Microsoft for making this all possible. And that's about it.
That was beautiful. How do you feel, Julia, now that you've completed that?
It feels good, honestly. I feel it was super productive, and I feel like, yeah, it was really awesome to have like the deadlines too, just to you had to get everything done, and you really had to work in. You really had to plan and just make sure you had everything thorough. It was really awesome.
I feel like a big part of becoming a good engineer is working with good mentors and learning what questions to ask and how to ask them, and also learning how to search for the answers for your problems. Because, okay, let's not like give away the secret too much, but like a lot of being an engineer is binging things and Googling them, right? Like a lot of the times we're like, okay, I know I want to do this thing, but like, how do I do it? And then like finding the right terms and the right way to problem solve. And what I love, Julia, is that you remind me of myself. You have so many hobbies and activities. And it's cool that you built this project that helps you manage and plan those hobbies and activities. But I'm just so excited to see how you apply, this filmmaking side of your background and this offer. Like there's so many interesting worlds with language and Markov chains that I just can't wait to see you explore. So welcome. So excited to have you.
Julia is a full-on celebrity. We're going to have to send out autographs to everyone watching today. Bo, Natalie, what did you think?
Okay, I'll go this time. Okay. First of all, great job, Julia. Super cool project. I liked how you were motivated by, I guess, the time constraint. I don't know if that was a good thing. But great job. Super cool project. I liked it.
Yeah, I think the name of the project is super cute to me. I really like just like your thought process behind it. And, in 10 years, if you're famous, I'm probably going to hit you up, just like an FYI. But yeah, super proud.
We can't afford the music rights, but we stand the name of the app being named after the Judy Garland, Barbra Streisand collab that we all love, right? No, probably just me. Okay.
We'll go for the rights next time.
Yeah.
Great job, Julia. Thank you so much for that incredible presentation. Up next, we have, oh my God, I can't talk. We have Fardeen. Fardeen, how are you feeling?
Hello, I'm feeling pretty good. How about everyone here? I hope you guys are doing well as well. So, yeah.
We are. We're really excited to see your project. So I'm going to let you start sharing and take it away.
Cool. It's loading right now. But as it's loading, hey everyone, my name is Fardeen Babu, and this is my program. It's called Populitic, or Digital Populism Realized. That's a little slogan. And for a little bit of an introduction before we start, my name is Fardeen Bablu. I'm 16 years old, and I go to Washington Liberty High School. I'm in the 11th grade, and I live in Northern Virginia. And some of my interests include computer science and data science, as well as foreign affairs and political sciences. And the reasons why I like these concentrations are really just because I like to look at data pieces and be able to contextualize that using computer science and code and programs to make it a lot more easier to understand. And some of my hobbies here include graphic design and UI UX design. I like looking at really nice and clean websites and knowing the back end part of that, as well as running. I run my school cross country, and I'm on the track team, as well as looking into current events. I like going and knowing about the global scene and knowing what's going on. And most importantly, I love coding. I really like using code to do some math problems, and this program kind of showed me a different part of coding, so I'm really happy about that. And here you can see some of the pictures. This is me at my school at our Key Club, and this is just me at a holiday bazaar with an old teacher. So, I like community engagement. And here on the bottom right, you can see me giving an interview or getting an interview presenting an art and memory project with the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. That's a little bit about me. And now about the idea. So essentially, the concept of this project was to create like a form where people can enter and compare political officials' digital popularity. And what this would do would be to display their platform, their agenda, and their party that would be publicly known. And since I wanted to start off small, I decided to work with the social media platform Twitter, right? I hope we all know what that is. And I would wanted to visualize Twitter data, so Twitter likes, retweets, followers, stuff like that. And the real purpose of this would be to kind of get more people into politics, specifically local politics, because a lot of people often ignore them, or when they actually go to vote for their local officials, it's more like, oh, okay, what's this person's name? Oh, what's their party? Okay, let me just vote them. They don't really know too much about them, mostly because a lot of people don't have a lot of time to look into that. They're just at work, and they're not really interested in politics. So what I wanted to create was a quick and easy way to know about a candidate's popularity and agenda. So some of the background continued. I was really interested in Twitter API specifically because I was able to, get access to the Twitter developer API, the small little key thing. I wanted to make a project using Twitter API, but I didn't know really how to, so that just kind of was in the back of my mind until Bit project. So I was able to use that. I also wanted to make a user comparison tool, which was aimed towards elected officials, because I feel like that would be the best way to implement the data that I get. And I want to have really quick information. And essentially, you can see here, the basic concept of this project would be the user entering a Twitter handle that would be stored in an array, and then the visual data that's relevant would be displayed as a graph. And then some of the problems that this solves is that it's a really quick comparison. You can use it towards elected officials, but it can also be with big brands, like Nike, Adidas, stuff like that. And it analyzes digital popularity by having really simple graphs where people can be like, oh, okay, this person has this many followers, likes, retweets compared to this other person. Okay, cool. So then this person is more popular, specifically on Twitter. And these graphs are going to be really recognizable, and the charts are really nice and clean, which I'd hope. So in terms of using the Twitter API, if you look in the bottom right here, I was able to get a library on my hands to implement using Azure Functions. This takes in the Twitter API, and I'm able to put my secret developer key that Twitter gives me, and then it fetches the specific things that I want. And I'll show that later in the code. So before I do that, some of the challenges that comes with this. Local hosting, firstly. I have some challenges with that because I'm using like a school issued computer, so I don't have like the ability to use Node.js, certain things that allow me to make a better test before I actually run it. So I had to use the browser. And also using the best aspects of Twitter API. If you look at this small little chart here or picture, there's a lot of information. And one of the biggest problems is when it came to this project was there's too much information, and I had to pick and choose which pieces of information that I felt was most relevant. So in this one, I decided to look at the retweets, likes, and follows that a user has, just to simplify things. Alongside that, another challenge would be to find the best visualization library. In my program, I use chart.js, which is a very simple one, but there's a lot of different and more complex types of data that the data visualization tools. For example, d3.js, there's a lot of cool different graphs that you can show off in c3.js, which is like even more specific than that. And another challenge would be developing a nice UI and UX. As I said before, I'm really interested in that, and I'm really interested in like doing like drag and drop, but I'm not really familiar with the actual coding aspect. So that was a big challenge when it came to my website. And finally, static versus dynamic data. Dynamic would be where the followers, likes, and retweets would be changing constantly. And I felt like that was too complicated as I was looking into it. Felt like it was too much code and I wasn't going to be able to complete that. So I just stuck with static data, which would be the data that that feeds into the system at the time that you press enter on the system. So yeah, here's a bit of the the library code that I showed before. This is within the Azure console. Essentially, I was able to import that library and I was able to connect to the Twitter API. You can see here, consumer key, and then consumer secret. I actually put my personal Twitter developer thing here, just so people don't steal it, but that's where it would be. And yeah, that just connect me to the Twitter API. And down here, I have the specific things that I want to get from Twitter. So I'm able to get the profile that I need, which would be the top half. If you go on Twitter right now, it would be the top half of a user's Twitter page. It would just be the followers, their profile picture, their description, stuff like that. And the timeline here, which is essentially within a day, what has this user tweeted, retweeted, and what are the contents within that timeline? What are the contents within each of those tweets that user tweeted? So yeah, profile and timeline here. So into the Visual Studio Code we go. To start off here, I had to create an array of the results that I got for the actual data that I receive. And here, so this is all JavaScript, right? I had to make that array. And here I had to fetch the Azure Function HTTP trigger tool, so that when somebody requests something, it triggers that, and then Azure Functions can use the Twitter API to do the work. So next slide here. Okay, so up here I had to create a thing where it's looking for the input on the Twitter handle. So when it receives it and gets that Twitter handle, it goes on to the rest of the code here where it gets the specific things that I want. So as I said before, I wanted followers, likes, and retweets. To get the followers here, I had to use the Twitter keyword, which is followers_count, in order to get the set amount of followers that's within the profile. So this was the real reason why I needed to get the profile, data set, because that's just the specific number that I wanted, the followers count. And then down here, just kind of combine both of these. I needed to get the keyword, the Twitter API keyword for the amount of likes and the amount of retweets within the tweets of a user. And I couldn't just, get and receive one of the tweets, the most recent tweet that the user had tweeted out, because that's kind of boring, right? That's just one tweet. There's probably be like 10, 20, maybe 100 likes. It's not enough, right? So what I had to do was add up each of the tweets that happened in that day in the whole entire timeline, and add up the likes within those tweets and add up the retweets within those tweets. So it's kind of the same process for both of these keywords. I had to add them to the likes count. The keyword for likes would be favorite count here, and the keyword for retweets, it was retweet count. And then after I get all that information, all that good information about the likes and the retweets, I had to push that onto the actual data set that I would be displaying, and then down here I'd just be updating the chart. And yeah, so little smiley face, because this was kind of the easy part. I was able to create a submit button so that whenever the person submit or writes in the Twitter handle, they can press submit, and all that stuff that I showed you guys before would be compiled and shown into the charts. And speaking of the chart, this is just like the fun labeling part using chart.js. Once again, chart.js is a very simplistic, very easy to use tool that I really liked because, it was really simple and easy to understand. The complicated ones, when I tried to use it, it was kind of weird. I tried to implement it alongside chart.js, but it just got really like wacky. So I just stuck with chart.js. And then I had to have the labels, obviously, for followers, likes, and retweets, change the colors, all that good stuff. So yeah, smiley face, because this was the fun part. Yeah, and then finally here we have another thing to show the data set, followers, likes, and retweets. And I had to display all the relevant data within this data set. And down here is just a type of chart, which is a 2D bar graph that I wanted to show off. And then there's some miscellaneous additions that I could have added onto this. All right, now for the demonstration. Before I get into that, actually, I want to show off how I got some of this information here. So if you were to look at the top here where my mouse is, you can see the link that I'm given, right, from Azure Functions, the trigger, the first trigger, right, HTTP 1 trigger. So after that, you can see this keyword kind of here. It says $name equals, and this name equals is looking for that Twitter handle. So what I did was I entered in my district's, my state's representative. So I'm in District 8 in Northern Virginia. So my representative is Don Beyer, and I had to put in his Twitter handle here, and I was able to get all this information. So right now it looks really ugly, right? So I had to download a parsing extension, and now you can see the two most important pieces of data that I wanted in the code here. You can see profile and timeline. To look quickly at the profile, Representative Don Beyer, Northern Virginia, all that good stuff. This is his description. He has a specific link, so it's actually him. And the specific information that I needed from him was, once again, followers count from his Twitter account. So that's what I needed from the profile. And for the timeline, real quick, profile, it's a very short amount of information compared to the timeline. If you look at the right side, you can see this bar here. There's a lot of information because it's all the tweets, retweets, and everything that this user had put on from today. So it's just a lot of information. I had to sift through this and find the specific retweet count and the likes count from each tweet and add them up. So now to the fun part, the actual website here. I want to go with a pretty simplistic design. If you look at the top left, I can just click the top left here. Oops. Top left here, and then you get the title screen populated, little slogan, "This is digital populism realized," and a little quote, "Technology is now synonymous with politics." And this little about page here is essentially what I covered in my purpose and my background information on the slideshow. Just saying that in the 21st century, technology and politics are becoming more and more intertwined. There's a lot of new things that our elected officials need to know about technology, stuff like that. A new field in academia known as computational politics. It's a new concentration, looks at public opinion and contextualizes that, turns it into visual data. So that's the really cool part that I'm interested in. And Populitic, the program is a digital user comparison tool that allows you to compare different users' likes, followers, and retweets. And that's pretty cool. So we have this cool little logo that I put in. And then instead of scrolling, I'll click the top left here and go to the tool. What the tool is, just enter a Twitter handle and we'll do the rest. So you can see here, this is a chart.js graph that's here, and here are the labels. All I have to do here is type the Twitter handle. And once again, just like the example that I showed before, Representative Don Beyer, I'll be putting it into here as well. So that's his Twitter handle, submit. Pretty instant. Okay, cool. So then we have the three pieces of information that I wanted: the followers, likes, and retweets that Representative Don Beyer has on his website. So if you were to go on his Twitter page right now, which is that you'd see his followers here, the likes, which would be, you wouldn't see the likes, but you'd see in the individual tweets that he had from today. And this is just that added up alongside these retweets that he has. So that's just one set of data from one user, right? So it's like, okay, what's the fun with a comparison tool without being able to add more people, right? So here comes the cool part. I'll be adding in another representative. This is Representative Bobby Scott. He's another representative next in my district, I believe. And yeah, that's his Twitter handle. And then this is his information, the followers, likes, 224 likes, and the retweets here. So clearly, this is what the tool is made to do. Clearly, you can see that Representative Don Beyer has a much stronger digital base compared to Bobby Scott. So good job, Representative Don Beyer. You have a lot of digital outreach to a lot of people. So that's one of the major things that this program does. And one of the coolest things here is that once I said it, I said this again, right? To say this again, within this search bar, you can see that there's the Twitter handles and everything. When you go to the console here, you can see that I'm putting these in an array. So you can see there's 0 and 1. This is the first part of the array, which was Representative Don Beyer, and this was the second part of the array, which would be Bobby Scott. So those are two pieces of information that this takes in. So to go back to the slideshow. Okay. Hope you all aren't tired from all these presentations and awesome projects. All right. So here are some of the additions and where I would take Populytic. One of the major things that I was really interested in looking at was separating that search bar that I had to delete and re-enter a Twitter handle. I was interested in separating each of these by a comma, so then it'd just be really simple. Put in the Twitter handle, comma, another one, comma, another one. There's just some examples. Yeah, so that's one of the major things I would like to add. Some of the other things would be better website design. Obviously, since I'm interested in UI, UX, user experience, interface, it could be a lot better. Adding some pictures, making a run a lot smoother. Yeah, that's just what I'd be working on. And also, I'd gear it towards public officials. One of the main goals was to have that platform position, which I found that was difficult to implement. But if I had more time, or in the future when I continue working on this project, I'd have a better platform position of the users that are entered, if it is an elected official, and a user background, their websites pasted, stuff like that. Another cool thing would be to have a checkbox that would show the information that the user wanted to put in. So you saw the followers, retweets, likes, and then I could add some other information pieces. What if a person comes onto the website and it's like, I just want to look at the followers, I want to compare the followers. Cool, they just check the checkbox for followers, omit the other ones, and then you just get the followers. So yeah, we're seriously not done yet, for real. We need to add more stuff to this project. It never ends. Oh, that was animation for some reason. Okay, so yeah, to talk about Bit project as a whole, my experience here was really good. I really did not know much about programming as a whole, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, whatever you call it. I'm really more familiar with Python and Java, and more specifically doing some like fun math problems with them, like small little assignments and test cases, not really like a whole-on project. So within this program, I was able to like know how to use data and API and visualize that. I'm more confident when it comes to data now and displaying that using code. And I'm more knowledgeable about my Twitter developer account and how it works. So hopefully after this program, I can start another project using the Twitter developer API and something else with Twitter. So yeah, I feel smart after this program. And another thing about the program, it's very flexible with the projects. I could have really done whatever I wanted and whatever I was interested in, as long as it used Azure Functions in some way. So that's the really cool part. There was really great mentors that helped me about any questions that I had, and guided me through the right path, giving me the right piece of information to actually do really well and create a good program. The coordinators were also great. They're really laid back. Just do your work, do it well, show it to us, be proud of what you did. really like the community. All the other students were really cool. So yeah, that's a bit project. And I want to say special thank you to Shreya for reminding me about deadlines, Natalie and Bo for making those learning labs pretty simple, easier to understand with those videos. And thank you to Anthony, my mentor, for helping me a lot when it came to the back end, getting and fetching the information that I needed using the Twitter API properly. And yeah, also special thanks to obviously BitCamp and Microsoft for allowing this to happen.
Wow, that was so professional, Barty. So beautiful. Chloe, what did you think?
Such a beautiful project. We already have someone at Twitter excited to talk to you more about your project, Fardeen. I'm not kidding. Tess will be reaching out to you. This is such a great project, and what great experience you got working with the Twitter API. So bravo.
Great job. Natalie, what do you think?
Yeah, I think this project is super cool and also like personally useful. I think like definitely local elections are like overlooked. Like I voted for the first time and I had like no idea what was going on besides like the presidential candidates. So I feel like this is definitely useful for all the uninformed people out there like me.
And then Bo.
Super great job, Ferdine. I have to say the last time you showed me it and I just saw the actual like response from the Twitter API, I was wondering what you're gonna do with the data. And then after I saw it today with the charts and everything, it looks amazing. And I love how you can like compare it to other representatives.
How are you feeling?
Cool. I feel pretty cool. I feel pretty good. I mean, yeah, thank you guys for all the feedback, I guess, the compliments. Thank you for cheering me on, Chloe, in the chat. I can see. Yeah, I was really happy with this project. I really like the topic, right? I like meshing like STEM and like sociology, whatever, politics together. I think that's really cool and really relevant for the future. So, yeah.
Great job. Thank you so much, Fardeen. And next up, we have Fifi. Fifi, how are you feeling for your presentation? Oh, you're muted. Oh, no. If you can hear us.
Hi. Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep. Okay, go for it.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. Sorry, my Wi-Fi has been kind of weird today, so I have to like refresh this like right now. So I'm Fifi, and my project is called Price Scraper. So to give you a little bit of background on me and my experience in tech, I am a junior at West High School, which is in Salt Lake City, Utah, and computer science is definitely my biggest hobby. I spend a lot of time doing like conceptual problems with algorithms and data structures, as well as participating in robotics to kind of balance out that conceptuality with more practical applications. Additionally, I am a varsity cheerleader for my school, and I participate in HOSA, which is a medical organization for students interested in medical careers. And this is me and my team at the International Leadership Conference last year, where we won 3rd place in public health. So with that, my roles and experience in technology mainly have to do with Java and Python, as well as advocating for equitable access to CS education, which is really important to me and is also a reason why I was so interested in joining Bit Project and being involved with this CAM. With that, my career interests are definitely with humanitarian technologies. So I want to apply my interest in developing my technical skills, as well as continuing to advocate and apply my interest in public health to developing technologies that help solve humanitarian issues. So now let's get to the actual project. So I definitely did have some goals in mind when I decided on the project that I wanted to build. So I mainly wanted to learn how to handle information through the web. So getting, posting, and storing information were definitely goals of mine. A couple of criteria that I had for the actual project was that it would be generally relevant to a lot of people. automate a task, and use a lot of Azure. So the idea that I finally rested on was an SMS reminder for Amazon products, which would alert a user when the price rises or falls below a certain discount threshold. This is the flowchart for my project. So basically, the user would first interact with the UI, which is the basic web form that would then send the form data to an HTTP trigger that would take the form data and then web scrape a price off of the URL that the user inputs, and then take all that information and send it to a SQL database. From there, another trigger would take that information from the SQL database and then do different things depending on 3 conditions. If the price would go up or go down, then a Twilio message would be sent to the user, alerting them with a notification. And then if the duration is reached and the user doesn't want any more notifications, then their information is taken from the SQL database and the reminders are terminated. So now let's talk about implementing this project. The first thing that I focused on was actually having a warehouse to store my data. So I decided to use Azure SQL databases for this because first off, they have a great pay-as-you-go model. They are Azure, which I definitely wanted to use as much in my project as possible. And it had great integration with VS Code. So this would be my query editor in the Azure portal. And this is what the database looked like in Visual Studio. So after I got my database set up, I wanted to focus on inputting data. I used Azure Static Web Apps to deploy a very basic web form with a JavaScript backend that would format and parse data that would then be sent to an HTTP trigger function that was written in Python, which would then web scrape the price and query the information into the SQL database. So these are the 2 main functions from the HTTP trigger. The first one would be to scrape the price, which was done through this library called Beautiful Soup. That is super duper helpful and basically lets you web scrape anything off of a website. And then also the PYODBC library, which is used in the update database method, where I was basically able to write SQL queries right into my Python and then take all of the information from the form as well as the scraped price from the URL and then input it into the SQL database. So after I got all of the information inputted into my database, I wanted to actually focus on the reminder system itself. This would again query into the database and get the information out of the database and then send a Twilio message in 3 different cases. The first would be if the current price meets the discount threshold of the product when from the original price when the user first started the program. Or it would notify the user if the price goes up or down from the last time that the timer trigger checked it. I kind of mentioned that a little bit earlier than I thought I would, but so my program would then use a timer trigger that would have a daily reminder to check these 3 cases, query into the database, and send the Twilio message. So these are the main snippets for the timer trigger. This is also written in Python and basically gets the information from the data, again using the PYODBC library to query out the information, and then checking the 3 cases. So if the price has increased from the baseline percentage, or the duration has reached, or if the price has fluctuated at all. And these basically return arrays with all of the information needed. And then this method called send messages gets that information from the arrays. And then for each of the cases, it would basically write some sort of a message like the product has increased in price or meets the ideal discount percentage and sends out the information to each of the users. So now I'm going to have my demonstration. So basically, this is my form right here where you enter in your phone number and then the product name and also the product URL, which is just being copied and pasted from here and pasted right there. And yeah, so the baseline discount percentage, so at least 12% off of that price and to be notified for 30 days. So yeah, from there, this is kind of what the SQL database would look like after you input in some some information. And then this is what a message would look like. So you'd be sent this if the current price increases or decreases. And since I can't really predict when a price will change on the Amazon site, I kind of spoofed this from the original site to changing the URL as well as the duration to simulate what it would look like if the reminder was sent for different cases. So this is for a toy gun, even though the query is for a chapstick, I think. So yeah, now I'll talk about my challenges and experience. So my biggest challenges definitely came from learning and configuration. So first off, I was completely new to everything. So I did not have that much experience in JavaScript or anything like that. So that was a little bit hard to get used to and kind of configuring just like languages and learning about that. But also Azure. So I decided to use Azure and Python functions specifically because of the beautiful soup library, which was really, really helpful in scraping the data, but actually turned out to be a lot less beginner friendly than the other runtime stacks. Additionally, it required a lot of configurations for the remote function and unfortunately did not enable me to actually modify anything in the portal. So I had to download VS Code, which was the environment where I coded pretty much everything. And this definitely had some issues because with Python functions, there were a lot different configurations for the remote portal and the remote program than the local ones. So on top of dealing with configuring my VS Code environment and getting it to work locally, I had a completely different experience with also configuring the remote function as well. On top of that, scraping prices from Amazon can definitely be a challenge because the website is just so big and the company's so big that they definitely do write some sites differently depending on if it's an item on sale or some other different figure, some other different like factor. Lastly, I did have a couple issues with Twilio since it does require you to have like manually inputted phone numbers if you are on a subscription, but that could just be solved with having an actual subscription, and yeah, that would be very easily resolved. So yeah, now to talk a little bit about my experience. I definitely had an amazing time and I really achieved my goal a lot more than I thought I would. I did not really know anything about SQL or how to, I didn't know the mechanics behind how data was actually stored through the web. So it was really interesting to kind of see where that led me, and I definitely learned a lot. Some reflection and some advice that I would give future people taking BitCamp is to ask a lot of questions. So definitely ask your mentors, ask your instructors and everything, but also spend a lot of time just answering those little questions that you might have. Search things up on the internet or go to like Stack Overflow or something and just find those answers because it'll probably definitely help you learn and have a better understanding of things. And also focus on your minimum viable product. So don't try to get everything out. Don't try to get like a finished product out from the get-go. Just kind of focus on getting the simplest version of your product out and then kind of building as you go along. So yeah, I would love to give special thanks to Bo and Natalie, who were the instructors for this camp and taught me everything that I know about Azure, and honestly gave me a lot more confidence coming out of this camp because I don't think I would have pushed myself to learn as much if it wasn't for them. And definitely Ankit, my mentor. Every time I talked to him, I talked to him for like 30 minutes or something, and my eyes would be completely opened. I would have so much better perspective on how to do things efficiently and make everything look better. So yeah, thank you, Ankit, for also just being really uplifting and positive about my project. I would also like to thank Chloe and Shreya, who have definitely helped me put this presentation together and given me the platform to speak to you guys about my project, and Microsoft and BitProject for helping me to learn more about something that I probably would not have learned about otherwise, because I don't think there's that much exposure to CS, but also a lot of exposure to serverless. So this was definitely a unique experience that I'm really grateful to have, thanks to everybody on this slide.
Yay! Great job, Fifi. Seriously, like, I'm so impressed that you mentioned that this is like your first time working with APIs and that you're feeling more comfortable. That is so exciting to hear. I know APIs, especially when you're first getting started, are no difficult feat. So, or are a very difficult feat. So congratulations and way to go.
Thank you.
I have to say, web scraping is not the easiest thing. So you did a great job using Beautiful Soup.
Yeah, and I was like super impressed that you didn't have any experience with like setting up a database, but now you have like a full-fledged backend SQL server, and that's really, really cool. Very proud. Yeah, good job.
I love seeing like such a short amount of time. Like, great job, Fifi, and I'm excited to see what you do in the future as well. Thank you so much for joining us. And now we have our final speaker, the long-awaited Simon. Thank you so much for waiting so long.
I feel like this is a special moment. Like, this is the end of the graduation where, like, as we go on, we remember. Simon is our final presenter.
Simon, I will let you take the lead on the presentation. Let me see. Okay, go for it. You are muted, by the way, just quick reminder. Are you guys able to, are you able to hear him, Natalie?
No. Simon, can you hear us?
Try
try not using earbuds.
And don't mute yourself. You're muted right now. It's okay. Technical.
Hello? Oh, he's alive.
Go for it.
I'm Simon Navarro, and I came up with our idea. Who am I? I'm a high school student at Huntley High School. I'm a junior there. The clubs that I did was robotics and science Olympiad. Robotics especially helped me since it was coding in C++, which is what the Arduino needs this thing. I also learned JavaScript, which helped me with the website side, and then Java. JavaScript I learned from programming in CS and in a computer programming class. Same thing with Java, I learned it in AP Computer Science A. What does RFID solve? First off, it takes a long time to sign students out of classes. For example, you need to fill out this entire thing. You have to fill out name, your date, the time, where you're going to, and the teacher's signature. And for that, it typically takes 1 to 2 minutes to fill out passes for students. Benefits, it's easier for teachers to track students since there's going to be a website. Second off, teachers save time since they don't have to look through all this and verify and then sign. Students also save time because they don't have to write down all of these things to say like, yeah, I'm going here, 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 here. Fourth off, data is more reliable. Have you ever met someone who can't read an analog clock? I swear, I've seen people read an analog clock, take 2 minutes, and still get it wrong. Why use RFID? RFID readers are inexpensive and cards can hold relatively big amounts of data. So what it uses is an RFID card. An RFID card. Then it sends that information to this Arduino, which sends it to a database. And then it displays that web page if they're out, and other information such as name, ID number, last name, and other miscellaneous information. Issues? Oh God, the issues. First off, I had to learn how to work with databases. Databases were one of the easier things to work with since I've had experience using Excel and Google Sheets scripting stuff. Second off, Raspberry Pi was breaking. The amount of headaches this thing has given me is incredible. I had to deal with so many issues with this thing. One primary of that is the OS wouldn't boot for a second time. Third off, documentation. I feel like everybody has said this before, but oh man, the documentation. The documentation for my RFID reader had 7 pages of documentation. It included stuff of how to authorize usage to certain data blocks, how to write data, how to read data, data dump, info, card info, since there's manufacturer blocks. The default template for Visual Studio would not work. That's why my front end was just not working until NKit helped me like develop like most of the front end, and it was painful. Python would also not work with me since I installed Python incorrectly. I couldn't run the code. I installed the right packages, but when I ran the code, it just kept saying error, 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 and a bunch of stuff like line of this character is not valid. Third off, could not figure out why the web page was always not available. So this is an add-on to that first point, because whenever I tried running a template which was supposed to work, would always say this web page is not available, even if I pushed it to Azure or use IIS Express. This is the MyFair 1K memory map. So if you see here, there's manufacturer blocks, sector trailer. So these things are very important to know, since manufacturer block is stuff about the RFID card, and data blocks are actual spaces where you can actually write information. Since there's a mail, it kind of made it somewhat harder, and it was just a pain. Including the keys. The keys made stuff also kind of hard, since if you wanted to make each data block unique, you had to change each key of each sector trailer, and there were 15 sector trailers. And that made it complicated to make encryption and data protection on the RFID cards. People couldn't overwrite on their RFID.
Oh no, okay. I think something's wrong. Let's give it a minute and hopefully he's able to come back to us.
Oh.
Simon, can you hear us?
Yeah, my internet's going weird.
That's okay. Keep going. I think you're back for now.
Okay. Accessing the
Okay. Let's give it a minute and hopefully we'll get a chance to complete this. We really want to see your presentation, Simon.
Then you have to authenticate using A and B keys. Third off, you have to select sector and block addresses. That made it so you can actually access the data. This is basically the same thing for writing data, except for initializing the serial port. So this is what my current flowchart of my project does. First, an ID card is scanned. Second, Arduino processes the card. Then the time is recorded. Time and data is sent to a database. Microsoft Azure then processes the data and the data is displayed. This is what an ideal flow would work. An ID is scanned, Raspberry Pi processes the card, and an LED indicator would show if the card is valid. Then time is recorded, time and data is sent, and then recorded onto a database. Then Microsoft Azure would process the data based on requested and filters are selected, and then the data is finally displayed. This is the data that is recorded. The data that is recorded is time, date, user ID, name, location. So for this, it created data that teachers could use to see where people are and what time they got out and what time they returned. What improvements can be made? First, better UI design. Since the UI design that I have currently is kind of clunky. Second off is authentication, since you don't want everybody to see this. Third off is making a standalone device that can send and scan the info. My experience in this boot camp, everybody was friendly and nice. This is the first project I've done that had a deadline, and making projects in multiple languages that I've never used before. For that third point, the different languages that I had to use was Python. I tried using CSS, but that never worked for ASP.NET. I also had to use some C++, C# for the Arduino, some Python, some SQL query, and that's about it. And then the stuff that I learned in Azure was really nice. And Azure was it was super seamless compared to what you would usually do if you didn't have a serverless thing. Let me show my project first. So what I have here is an Arduino, and I have to run Python code. So right here is an Arduino. And I have an RFID card that I wrote some data to. And let me pull it up. This. So I have this Arduino and this website. Let me just pull this website into the tab. So this is what data is displayed currently. For right now, the time isn't consistent, so it's not by time basis or any other basis. It is just randomly spread out. So if I run this Python code and scan this, it should be added to the website. Check a while. So this is what, yeah, it's still loading in. I think it's because server is stale right now. Let me just pull up. Let's reload. Yep, there it is. I just had to reload and it's there. So, my gratitude. My gratitude goes to Natalie Hung because she was able to like push me to ask like more questions and like push me to like continue on with my project properly. Bo, because he tried to help me fix this Raspberry Pi that I just want to throw across the room. Ankit for helping me immensely with the front end. Hamza for just some general questions that I had. He's a friend of mine. BitCamp because they were able to give me this opportunity to create these projects.
That was incredible. Great job, Simon. I don't know how you pulled that off. It sounded so complicated, but great job.
Just seeing that visualization of the board like what just brought me back to my first time working with an RFID. And I just have to say, for a first time, Simon, this is great. So bravo. Proud mom, proud mom.
That documentation, oh, it made my head hurt.
Right?
I was like, what does this do compared to this? I'm like,
because you'd think simply you're like, I want to do this thing and it's been done before. So surely I can just go on the internet and someone can tell me how to do it, right? Like that's kind of the case with anything, but there's always these like weird gotchas and caveats that you have to like figure out yourself. And that's so much of being an engineer. Team documentation for the win though, right? Like good, clear documentation. That's why it's so important during BitCamp that we have all of the students write these blog posts. They get experience not only learning how to make these projects and present these projects, but also they've now learned from experiencing the gift and sometimes the curse of documentation, how important it is to write out directions. So bravo, Simon.
Good job. Well, how did you feel about that? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It was just a small comment.
Yeah. I have to say that, yeah, my project had to do with hardware, and luckily it went super well. The issue with your Raspberry Pi was crazy. I've never seen something like it. So, you know, that happens sometimes when you're using hardware. But it was super cool and you did a great job.
That sucked up way too much time.
Yeah.
So I really suggest that you check that your hardware works first and not spend too much time trying to make it work.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's a good next time to think about it. And also, like the 3 different electronics that I broke during this project. The Raspberry Pi and the 2 RFID readers that I didn't solder properly. The only one that worked was the one that was pre-soldered.
Yeah.
Well, you pulled through at the end, so congrats. And Natalie, how do you feel?
Honestly, like massive kudos to Simon. Like I think out of all the students, he really dealt with the most I was gonna say something, but I'm gonna say problems instead. Honestly, like every time I checked in with him, he had like a new hardware issue that like I have no idea how to help him with. But he like honestly was so brave. He stuck with it, and I'm really glad that his project turned out really nice in the end. So great job, Simon. I'm like super impressed with your, I don't know, like
I don't know what was going on with Visual Studio. Like everything to do with like ASP.NET, I tried using React.js, nothing. Like even the default templates won't work. I pulled up a code library that someone made and verified worked, and I tried running it on Azure or on Visual Studio on IES Express, and it still would not work. I'm
If
so
it makes you
glad
feel
it
any
did.
better,
Okay.
Simon, I couldn't figure out why my new webcam wouldn't work today. And I realized that the directions, I was like, why isn't this working? The light won't turn on, but it's plugged in. I didn't realize that the light only turned on when the camera was on. Like that I had to turn the
Oh, that thing, yeah.
well, like there was no button, but like I had to like select on my, I was like, oh man. So that's why, good documentation, visual color graphics. If there was like a big red circle, I would have known. But you get your official badge of honor in the mail soon. It's like I did a hardware project and I survived it, and all I got was this badge. So I'm very proud.
I still want to throw this Raspberry Pi.
So now you officially get to burn it. That's like part not. Bo undersold it a little bit. I do remember Bo had some very high highs and some very low lows of working with hardware for the first time. And like in the end, it was great and it worked. But there were moments where he's like, I don't understand why this is working, but okay.
Yeah, that's just part of like the process, but the process just pain.
spoken like a true developer.
Yeah.
I am so glad that I didn't do PCB designs.
What's the plan moving forward after burning it, of course?
Yes.
I don't know. I want to try and do something with PCBs and see if I could do something with that. Like, since my cousin knows PCB design, I want to see if I could do something IoT-like with that. And something low cost. So, like, some solution that's low cost that's, like, beneficial. That's what I want to do.
That's really incredible. Honestly, like something that stood out to me for all of the projects this time around was just how focused they were on like solving real world problems. Like they didn't have to do that, but they went out of their way to do that. So great job. I'm really excited to see what all of you do in the future as well. And I just want to say, like, Natalie and Bo, you guys don't get enough credit for the work that you did as student mentors in this. Like, Bo, you're still in high school. Natalie just started college. Like, you guys are incredibly talented. You helped out all of the students so much to pull this entire thing together. So round of virtual applause to you guys.
Way to go, Natalie and Bo, training the new cohort, going into the future TA helpers of the next cohorts and the generations. You're now, so like you were freshmen, now you were sophomores this time. How does it feel to be rising junior BitCampers?
Feels good.
Well, thank you for all the fabulous work that you did. Truly, like we couldn't have done it without you. And you're now experts. You're Azure experts now.
Yeah, I really like Azure now, since like deployment by yourself now seems like a pain compared to what you can do with Azure, because like you could just suddenly want to have an SQL server and like, yeah, there you go. There's an SQL server. Well, with your local machine, you have to configure a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of people that we couldn't have done this without, we could definitely never pull this off without you. You've been a mentor like for the last, 6 months for us, and you take time out of your really busy schedule to meet with our students one-on-one, give us feedback, help us improve. And Anthony and Stephanus helped us a lot this time around as well, literally holding like office hours for all of the students. Like, you guys have such busy schedules and you find time to do that for us. We're really grateful.
The pleasure is truly all mine, and I'm sure I can speak on behalf of Anthony and Ankit, who've been very active in the chat. But truly, these students are superstars, and it's been such a pleasure to help them and teach them Azure and support them. And I can't wait to see all the amazing things that they build. So congrats to all.
Yep. And we will be sending out all of the blogs either this weekend or next weekend for the students. So if you're interested, feel free to email us info@bitproject.org or sign up to all of our social media accounts. And yeah, we're really excited to see the work that all of these students accomplish in the future. Thank you so much for joining.
Yes, and thank you, Shreya, and congrats to every single student. Every project was fantastic. And thank you to Daniel, who's been in the chat, and our fearless leader, the Wizard of Oz behind of all of this, in a good way, not in like the evil way at the end, like in a like, thanks.
Thank you so much, Daniel, President Daniel. Okay,
President Daniel.
Everyone, you guys did an incredible job. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.